Alright, hi guys, I'm always X Matrix Mods, and I'm redoing my thoughts on the iPhone keynote. I'm calling it the iPhone keynote, but it's the Apple keynote. And what they basically reviewed in that keynote was many things with their buildings and many things with their business model in general. But the big shebang from that keynote is the Apple Watch and the iPhone, and that's to be expected. I was really expecting an Apple Watch and the iPhone and the laptops, but or desktops or whatever, but they don't really focus on that because that's a niche market for content creators or whatever. I don't know, but I made the video and it was long as fuck, and I realized I had audio problems. That's the one downfall with this LG V20 and all the other LGs before it. I have big hands, and I accidentally, every single time, I accidentally cover my hand on one of the mics, and all of a sudden it just becomes super muted, like you can't hear me. All you hear is, and that pissed me the hell off. I didn't do that through the whole video, but I did that for like 3 minutes. And it just pissed me off, and I said, it's not even worth it, because that show is 30 minutes. So, not the, but like the whole review, my thoughts on the keynote. So I'm going to make it shorter this time, and I'm just going to point out what I liked and what I disliked within the keynote, mainly about the watches and the iPhones itself. Nothing else about their business model and their new buildings and all that stuff. I don't really care for that. I mean, there's some cool things where they said they're having like classes in their retail stores to learn coding and learning how to edit and all that stuff with Final Cut, which is pretty cool if you live in an area that has a Apple Store / Center area. But besides that, I don't really care. But anyway, let's start with the Apple Watches. All since that's what they mostly talked about throughout the whole keynote, and then the suspense with that's how they built up the suspense. They talked about everything else, and then at the very end, they talked about something that everyone cares about. They don't give a shit about the watches. They don't give a shit about their new retail stores and all that. All they really cared about was the new phones coming out this year. But the watches, me being an Android user, I'm really, I mean, I don't exercise much, so I wouldn't use the Apple Watch. That's pretty much what the Apple Watch is mainly used for. Everything, telling the time and all that is just an added bonus. But or is a not, it's not a bonus. It's a fucking necessary need because it's a watch. It's a requirement to be a watch. But anyway, the cool things I liked about the watch, Apple Watch 3rd generation, was where they had an embedded nano SIM inside the phone. I mean, inside the watch. So like when you forget your phone or you don't want to bring your phone while you're jogging or exercising at the gym or whatever, because you don't want to be distracted with everything else that your phone provides, like Twitter and stuff like that, YouTube videos, and you just strictly want to exercise, but you still want to have somewhat contact with people in case of emergency, you're able to use your watch as a standalone phone rather than like you had to do before, where you had to have your phone with you while you have your watch on, because the phone is connected to the watch, and the only way to make calls is to have the watch with you. I mean the phone with you alongside the watch. Because if you leave the watch at home, then it's not gonna work. It's just gonna be a regular watch. You won't be able to do anything else besides tell the time and stuff like that. But now that it's different, you have a embedded nano SIM within the new series of watches, third generation, and that is something that I like. The downfall is the price, and the downfall is that the watch screen is a bit small, a bit too small for my liking. But I'm not a watch person, and I never really was a fan of the Apple Watch. I'm not gonna get it, and I don't really want to get an Android watch either, because why the hell would I want it? I wouldn't really use it in an everyday setting. But for everybody else, I think it's pretty cool. But and the one feature about health and all that, that's pretty cool too if you exercise a lot. But I don't exercise to that extent where I need a fucking watch on me all the time. There comes points in time where you're like, I don't want to be connected to technology all the time. Because there's only a certain amount that everyone can do. Because then, sooner or later, you're just going to be glued to your devices and nothing else. And I don't like that. Me being a tech nerd and saying that sounds weird, but it's the truth. But, everything else about the watch is cool. It's upgraded, waterproof, more waterproof, honestly. And it's just better specs and a better device in general. The only cool thing and somewhat innovative thing, but I bet you Android did it a long time ago. I'm not sure because I never looked into it, but is the nano SIM embedded inside the watch? Which the only downfall is that if you try to sell that watch, the only way, it would only be able to be used with a service that was purchased with that. Like, if you buy a T-Mobile Apple Watch, it would only work with T-Mobile, I think. Because it's not a SIM card you're able to take out and put another one in. It's embedded inside the device and you're stuck with it. So that's a small little gripe, but it's understandable to keep it smaller. Because they said in the keynote, all the new things that they talked about in the watch, they said, oh, honestly, if we added a bunch of new features to the watch, it would wind up being a house arrest. It would wind up looking like a house arrest watch. It would just be big and bulky, which I'm like, that's true. So I can't hate on them with that, but it's pretty cool. And I don't have much negatives to say about the watch because I'm not really interested with that. But if you guys are, that's basically what the new generation of Apple Watch is. All the specs and all that, you could just Google it. I don't remember it because I don't have a script with me that I could read that just says all that stuff, and I just tell you right off the bat and all that stuff. No, I don't know. I'm going right off the cuff inside my head. I'm not fucking writing a script for this video. It's just going to be a quick one, and I'm going to upload it to YouTube, and whoever watches it, watches it. But I'm just speaking my mind. And on to the new iPhone. So, what I got to say about the iPhones this year compared to all the other years is that iPhone, I mean, why the fuck do I keep saying that? Apple is did a good job this year. They actually are stepping up the game with Android. They're still a little bit behind in comparison to Android, in my opinion, since I'm an Android user. And if you compare the two phones with an Android phone like the LG V20, you're gonna be like, it's all right, but I mean, all the stuff that the new iPhones had, Android devices had a long time ago. But basically, the new iPhones that came out are coming out in September and sometime in Christmas for some other phones, like the iPhone X. Um, on iPhone 8, iPhone 8 Plus, and iPhone 10. Um, iPhone 8 and iPhone 8 Plus are just it's like the Samsung S8 to some degree. It looks like it, feels like it, and it has some design cues that Samsung has. And better specs, of course, better camera, and overall just a better phone. And I like it. I like it. But the number one phone that like I see as the big hitter to and the big game changer for Apple is the iPhone X, which is their business model for their phones, like their lineup and the way they set it up is kind of strange this year. Where it's the iPhone 8 and iPhone 8 Plus, and all of a sudden the 10 is like if the future of the future of phones. Like I guess when new phones come out, they're always gonna have three phones to choose from: the future phone, and then the future phone. The iPhone X slash iPhone 10 is the phone that caught my interest the most. Has everything that iPhone 8 and 8 Plus have, but a little bit more under the hood and a little bit more to offer. One of them being a bigger screen, a 5.8 screen, and a OLED display. And it's bezel-less. So there's no, it's just a full-on screen. There's nothing, it's not phone casing, phone, it's just all screen, mostly. And I like that. But all the phones in 2017, this year, are basically, it's the standard now. Because the iPhone, the Samsung S8 did it, 8 Plus did it, and the new LG G6 did it, V30 is doing it, so it's a standard, so which is cool. And for me in particular, I got the V20, which is a year, at this point, a year behind. But I don't really care because I'm not looking for just top of line specs. I'm just looking for what I want. And the LG V30 is cool and everything. But the only benefits from the LG V30 that it has to the V20 are better cameras and waterproof. Everything else is not really important to me. I like the removable battery that the V20 comes with. I like the cameras already because they're cool. I like that it has the quad DAC. I like that it has an IR blaster, which I think the V30 does not have because they removed it, which is sad. And the V30 doesn't have a removable battery either, so it's considered planned obsolescence, which that means when the phone dies, the battery, it dies for good. You could replace it, but it would be a pain in the ass to do, as opposed to the V20 where you could just remove the battery and swap it out for another one. Remove the back and replace the battery. And it would be basically a brand new phone. But it's whatever. That's just how phones are going to be nowadays. And at one point I have to go deal with it when I get a new phone. But I'm going to have this fucking monster of a phone for a while. I'm going to tell you that right now. But that's not the point. This video is not about Android. It's mostly about the Apple keynote and the iPhones. So basically, what Tim Cook presented in the keynote was the new innovation, the new iPhone for Apple. Look at our new design. Look at our new new ideas and all that stuff. That's cool. It's magic and all that. That's cool. But there's a few things that I don't like, and there's a few things that I like. I like the fact that, like I said, Apple is stepping up the game and catching up with Android with wireless charge, a big screen, dual cameras, and the standard of the internal storage being 64, and then if you want more, 128, rather than 16, 8 gigs, or even 32. I like that. But the thing I do not like is that they remove on the iPhone 10. They remove the fingerprint sensor. They solely focus on the new uh, facial recognition scanning thing to unlock your phone and all that other stuff. So you don't have anything else to do besides to unlock your phone besides the facial recognition and a unlock code. But you don't have a fingerprint scanner anymore, so or a button in general, so you have to deal with the drawbacks of that. And I honestly do not like that. Well, if you don't want to deal with that, you could honestly get an iPhone 8 for cheaper, or go right to Android. Because the Samsung S8 Plus is basically an iPhone 10 for cheaper, a little bit cheaper. And it has a fingerprint scanner and a facial recognition thing. So, thumbs up to you, Samsung, for doing that. But Apple is just trying to... The thing that they like to do is force innovation. They force change. Not innovation, but force change. Like they did with the headphone jack. And I don't like that. It's a stupid idea. And a lot of companies are not following suit, with following the footsteps that Apple did with removing the headphone jack entirely and doing those stupid adapters. There's only a few companies like HTC and Motorola, the two that I think on the top of my head, that are doing that. That's stupid, in my opinion. To make this video short than it was last time, I'm not going to go in detail onto why it's stupid or anything, but it's just stupid. Because having a headphone jack is basically a requirement in this day and age. Because that's like saying you're going to remove an outlet from your wall in your house or everywhere, and you're just going to say, to power your devices, you either have to have wireless charge or you have to have an adapter to plug it into the wall. And that's fucking retarded, complicated, not intuitive, and just an extra step that's not necessary. So that's my short rant about it. But everything else that the new iPhones provide are good. Better specs, better camera, better everything besides no fingerprint scanner, and all facial recognition based stuff. But besides that, that's cool. And I like the fact that Apple, is actually pushing out bigger screens, better resolution, and a lot more options that they had prior. So other users can experience the experience that Android users experienced. I use the word experienced a lot. Many years ago with the bigger screens and all that. But it's a mixed bag. If you like Apple and the iOS platform and you want the benefits that Android phones have, then you're going to have it this year. And I suggest you get an iPhone 8 at least if you're an Apple user, because I think this is a go. iPhone 10, it's a mixed bag, and I'd rather wait until the price drops on that and see if it's a good phone to get in general when it officially comes out. But altogether, I think Apple did a good job, especially with the wireless charging. That's much, much needed. That is a necessary thing for this day and age. I don't really use it because I don't have any accessories with wireless charge. But I like the idea, and I know in the future, when I do have a phone that's capable of having wireless charge, I will love that feature. But as of right now, I don't really need it. But that's good that Apple's doing it and it's not proprietary. And I love the fact that Apple is focusing really, really hard on augmented reality, not to be confused with VR, but augmented reality. And the thing about Apple, I will say this as fast as possible. The thing about Apple, and the thing I like about Apple, but also hate at the same time, is that Apple is a company that pushes technology forward, like to the masses, not altogether, but to the masses, to the regular folk. Because Android itself, even though it's great and it's fantastic and it's leaps ahead of iPhone in a lot of aspects, there is still a lot of drawbacks in comparison. Security is not that great in comparison to Apple. Application support, even though it's much greater on Android, it is not safer than Apple is. And overall, Apple is more, even though it's streamlined and closed gated and all that, I like the fact that it's organized. And I like the fact that the support for their devices is long. Meaning you can get an iPhone 8 and you'll have that for like 5 years, and then you'll have like iOS 25. But when you get an Android device, 9 times out of 10, whatever you got with the Android device, Android Nougat or Oreo that's coming out pretty soon, you're going to be stuck with that until somebody rolls it out. Either a modder or the official phone company themselves, or T-Mobile or whatever cell carrier you have. Which 9 times out of 10, they're not going to do that right away, or they're not going to do that at all. But with Apple, you always have trust in them to support your device for a long time, because it's streamlined. It's not like Android where it's a wild west out there where there's multiple different phones and multiple different companies and multiple different variations of Android. Apple is just one thing altogether, and they're able to keep track of what their phones have and what their technology has, what their products have, not just their phones, but like laptops and stuff like that. And they keep it updated, they keep it safe, and they just keep it organized. And I like that about Apple a lot. And I hope one day Android will do the same. But we'll see what happens. And at the end of the day, if you're an Apple user, I suggest this year you get an iPhone 8, at least an iPhone 8 or 8 Plus. Because it's a go. It's a go. With the dual camera lens, the new technology, fast processor and all that, and AR support. I forget if they're not doing it for the iPhone 8 and just focusing on AR for iPhone 10, because I don't remember them going into detail with that in the keynote, but I think they're going to support augmented reality for iPhone 8 and 10. But if it's just 10, then whatever. The point is that Apple, like I said, I'm going to say this till the end of time. Apple pushes innovation, no matter if you like it or not. Pushes the idea of new technology to the masses, to the regular people, in comparison to Android. Because there's only a few Android phones that do AR, and there's only a few people in the world that know about it, one of them being me. And it's the development for it is not huge. So it's going to die quickly in comparison to Apple doing it. Because when Apple does it, a lot of companies will look at it and focus on it and will make it better. And then sooner or later, it will go to Android, but it will be more refined and more organized than it was in the beginning. And that is the absolute truth. And that's the one big thing that I like about Apple. And the one thing that I give a big plus thumb up for. And wireless charge and making their iPhones overall step up the plate with Android. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope to see you in the next one. OSXL. You got it?